Hello, and welcome to the Otaku Clubhouse. And this is Sink or Swim. What is Sink or Swim? Well, it's where we discuss anime, video games, movies, and just about whatever media catches our eye. Then give our first impressions of them. From top to bottom, we give our ratings of a swim, a tread, a float, a drowning, and at worst, a sink. Comments are always welcome, and of course, we're waiting to hear what you have to say too. Let's get into it. We just finished watching The World Ends With You, the animation. For those of you who haven't already played the game, let's just jump right into it. The story starts with the main character Neku, this orange-haired misanthrope, waking up in the middle of the Shibuya crossing and nearly getting run over by a bunch of cars, but quickly realizes that he is both unseeable to all the people around him and untouchable to them. The reason for that being not fully revealed immediately, but as he's walking around trying to figure out what's going on, he bumps into another person who seems to be able to see him and seems to have a similar situation. This happens after being attacked by a group of strange creatures that are somewhat similar to animals but also having graffiti limbs. They're known as the Noise, and thanks to the person who helped him with this young girl named Shiki, and the two of them teaming up and forming what is known as a pact, they're able to fight off the Noise. After passing out and reawakening, Neku comes across another group known as Reapers. These Reapers inform Neku that they're part of a game, a death game. The game is centered around following orders as are given by the Reapers. Again, Neku passes out and another day has passed. Neku and Shiki continue around Shibuya and eventually bump into two other members of this game, Beat and Rhyme. Beat and Rhyme inform Neku and Shiki that the Reapers aren't to be trusted and in fact are the antagonist to both them and the series. Following along with that, they're given another mission by the Reapers, and after slaying a few more Noise, it's quickly pointed out to Neku and Shiki that they have already cleared the mission for the day. Once that's over, one of the Reapers, Uzuki, gives Neku an ultimatum telling him that if he kills Shiki, then he'll be allowed out of the game. But if he doesn't, then he'll end up being erased. Erased being the form in which these characters would be completely killed off in this game. Neku, getting ready to do it, actually gets to the point where he's just on the cusp of killing her, but is stopped by one of the characters from the game, Sanae, if I'm remembering his name right. After that, another day is gone by, and Neku and Shiki both are going about town and come across another player who they realize is being possessed by a Noise. After defeating the Noise, they follow along with the other player who brings them to a concert. The concert is held by an artist Shiki really likes, a guy named 777. He gives them a pin and invites them into the concert. When they go in there, unfortunately, there appears to be more Noise, Neku and Shiki ultimately fighting them off when joined by Rhyme and Beat, in which they realize that all together they are able to work in a unit. Eventually, by the end of the episode, it's shown that Neku's opening up a bit more to Shiki and the group is also opening up to each other, becoming more friendly. But they also realize that some people in the world, some players, are also working as Reapers in the game. And that's the end of the first episode of The World Ends With You, the animation.
Now that that summary is out of the way, I have to say, I kind of have mixed feelings about this anime because while it looks great, they really captured the art style of the DS game, I have to say I'm kind of disappointed that they ripped off Personified.
I wanted you to not say that so fucking much. But yeah, so World Ends With You, the original, was released all the way back in 2007. I grew up with this game. It was probably my favorite DS game of all time, I think, honestly. I replayed it a lot. I still remember the incredible soundtrack. I remember the characters. I remember Neku being one of my favorite characters at the time, being the fact that he was a fucking downtrodden misanthrope, much like I was at that point. But I cannot say how much the popularity for World Ends With You had waned because of lack of care by Square Enix. After the game came out and Square Enix decided to not follow up with anything for years, and the first time that you really see anything The World's End With You focused was ports to phones and whatnot, I'm not too surprised that most people from this generation probably aren't going to know The World Ends With You. I'm pretty sure most Zoomers aren't going to know The World Ends With You.
Yeah, Square Enix really trolled with this bullshit, like how they would have like a website that counted down to a new World Ends With You announcement, and then it would just be like some fucking promotional poster in Japan only, and then they had like, oh, stay tuned for this big announcement on the anniversary of The World Ends With You, and then it's like, yeah, iOS port. And then they just, it's surprising that they did announce this anime and Neo, The World Ends With You, out of nowhere. But if you're a deep down in the cut fan like Akuma here, this has been a long time coming, and you know what? It's well off for it. Like I said before, I was joking, obviously, with the Persona 5 comparison. I know there's going to be some people out there who are just going to see, like, they also probably said this about Tokyo Mirage Sessions or just any fucking setting that takes place in Shibuya, Japan. It's just, yes, it looks, that's what it fucking looks like. If you go out there right now, you're going to be in quarantine for like 5 weeks. But if you go there right now, you can see that this is just what the place looks like, man.
The aesthetic for The World Ends With You is very unique. It's somewhat similar to Jet Set Radio, which is another game that I just love. All the soundtracks of both of those are my childhood and my teenage years. And they have their thickly outlined, super Japanese punk style characters and art style.
And Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts fans, it may surprise you to know that Tetsuya Nomura is the designer for these characters.
Yes, that was one thing that I didn't know. Despite the fact that they both have the exaggerated looks, much like Kingdom Hearts, which is partly why people who saw Neku in Kingdom Hearts are like, probably like, oh, you know, he actually fits. But I didn't know that, considering the fact that, you know, I feel like the World Ends With You designs, despite being a bit outrageous, there are some that really feel subdued, especially ones like Joshua. His design is almost completely alien to not just The World Ends With You, but Nomura design aesthetic as a whole.
You know what, in hindsight, you know what the giveaway is? The big ass shoes, man. The big ass fucking shoes.
Yeah, it does make perfect sense. Well, let's actually talk about some of these designs, because Felix, you played The World Ends With You, right?
I played it a long time ago. I didn't even own the game. It was one of those games that, you know, a cousin has lying around. Like, they always have the most obscure shit, like Shinobi for the PS2 or fucking... I can't think of anything I was describing, but yeah, I played it on his DS, and I really liked it. I looked into it, so I have a vague memory of the game. But yeah, I've been looking into doing a replay for it, for the sake of the new one coming out.
But as far as somebody like Hawkeyser, you've never played through The World Ends With You, right? I'd like to know what your opinion on this first episode was.
See, the thing is, I always gave it a try when I was a kid. I think the anime is probably the best way for me to experience it personally, just because I don't really fuck with RPGs that are like that. I like the animation, first of all. I'll say that the animation style looks very nice. I don't like how fast it is, really.
The pacing?
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of breakneck. And, you know, it's to be expected of a video game anime or an RPG anime, but, like, it's sort of taking me out of it.
When you have to condense, like, a 30 to 50 hour RPG story into 12 22-minute episodes, then this is to be expected. But... you know what? Of other things we've watched, like the fucking the High-Rise Invasion, that pacing was fucking atrocious. That's like 5 times speed. This one is a comfortable like 2.5 times speed. So
I mean, even when you said 20 to 30 hours, you were honestly giving it a bit light. Like,
oh, that's not even doing any side content or grinding or anything. That's just pure focus on story.
But yeah, the pacing of it is definitely accelerated for obvious reasons. If you were to actually go possibly by like The World Ends With You speed, this could have been nearly like 50 episodes and there would not be as much combat, and it would definitely be slower. Because The World Ends With You is very text heavy, and they seem to be skipping over unnecessary things, like there's a lot of time where they spend explaining, oh, well, how do Neku's powers work? Because he's using pins, and, well, how do you equip armor in the game? Well, you don't equip armor, you change your clothes. You get more fashionable, and you wear certain fashion in certain districts that are really popular.
And how do you play this game without getting your hands all cramped up and sweaty?
I'm very happy to see how they actually animated the way that Shiki fights, because in the game, for, again, anyone who never played the original, you were actually meant to play on both screens. On the bottom screen you would control Neku, and on the top screen you would control whichever partner you had at the time. And each partner had different things that they would do, such as, I'm trying to remember Shiki's, I can't remember how her mechanic worked. I do remember Joshua's, and it was the most annoying because it was math. You actually had to do little math problems while you were playing on the bottom screen at the same time with Neku.
Yeah,
so you can assume that was... Yeah, that was very fun. But I'm very happy with the way everything was animated in it. They seem to blend pretty seamlessly between 2D and 3D, which is also good.
It's noticeable, but it's not like disgusting 3D CG.
Yeah, it's pretty good CG actually.
Yeah, and I think that's due to the fact that the characters already look nice. Like, they're already very thickly outlined characters. So when you see them in 3D, it seems to translate over pretty well, which is something that is also noticeable in the new game. I like the way that the CG blends in with everything.
Yeah, there's only a few things aesthetically which I always say are like big changes. Not big changes even, really. They're just changes. First of all, Shiki's vagina bones, they were toned down, bro.
Them bones,
toned
boy.
Down. As a matter of fact, if possible, let's see if we can have a comparison picture between her DS art and her anime art, just so you can see just how extreme.
We'll see if we can find one that actually compares all of the Shiki designs, because her design has changed quite a bit from the original DS design. For anyone who doesn't know or hasn't seen it, Shiki's design is known outside of fans for this. This is the character that people will probably know specifically for her design.
Yeah. The other thing is, in the game, it was 2006. Everybody was using fucking flip phones. But now, in the anime, they're using smartphones. So that's a smart change. And the last one that I wanted to point on is that, actually, this confused Hakaiser while we were watching, is that the monsters in this, what were they called? They were called...
Noise.
The Noise, yes. The Noise in this have, like, this design thing where parts of their body is supposed to be graffiti, but in CG, it kind of looks like they're just weird skeletal arms almost for almost all of them.
Yeah, I thought they were like bones. I thought they were supposed to be like demons or something.
It really is just one of those things where it probably doesn't translate properly because, World Ends With You was 2D, and seeing all these noise in 3D, it doesn't probably translate the perfect way. Now that I think about it, the noise kind of remind me of what were those things called in Dream Drop Distance? The Dream Eaters?
Yeah, the Dream Eaters.
Which makes perfect sense. Again, no more making monster designs.
Also, the concept of them were reused in Birth by Sleep.
I guess that's really about it, unless you guys have anything else you want to say about The World Ends With You.
Like the music, the soundtrack is just the original game, OST, just new compositions for the anime. And I like the voice actors. There's one voice actor where we heard him and it's just like, there you go. There you go again.
Yeah, the guy who always sounds like he has a cigarette in his teeth.
Kenjiro Suda, known for voicing old men and also Kaiba in Japan. That's about it.
What about you, Hawkeizer?
I just want to stress how interesting I felt the animation was. I liked it a lot. I liked the fights. Even though I'm not really like a fan of The World Ends With You, it's visually stimulating, and I like that. It's something I can watch even if I don't really understand the story right now. they clearly put in some effort and some money into the production of this show.
All right, how about we give our ratings?
All right, well, I'll go first. It's pretty obvious that I'm giving this a swim. I don't really think that anybody would be surprised by this just because of how much I gush over The World Ends With You. That I was thoroughly impressed, not just by the production, like the animation and stuff, but also by the fact that they were using some of the songs from the original, and I fucking marked out to hearing Calling. Like, I was very happy with that. I was also extremely happy with the new songs as well. The new songs in it also felt very World Ends With You. Like, it felt like that era, again, evoking the feeling of Jet Set Radio Future to The World Ends With You, that kind of Japanese music that really got me into J-pop and stuff. So again, I gotta give it a swim.
For me, I'm gonna give it a fair float, just because it's a pretty show, but it's not something that I would like go and seek out and watch on my own or anything. It's definitely a show, like I said before, they put an effort into it. They really want you to watch it, probably because there's a new game coming out, so it's sort of a cross advertisement. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Good animation, even though I have no emotional attachment. The music was, it's kind of fire. It's definitely something I'll watch if somebody else is watching it, putting it on. And who knows, maybe I'll like the story later on. I'm interested to see where the noises are coming from and the Reapers. I want to see more of that. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's a fair float.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this an easy peasy swimming freezy. I thought this was good, man. Like, in a world where video game adaptations in the anime are most likely trash, this one was like god tier. Like, I don't know, there's nothing else I can really compare it to that is as good of a quality, where the only problem I can really say is like some minor things like pacing, which is understandable, and the aesthetic and CGI, which is clearly understandable. I mean, it's better CGI than X-Arm, so swim for me.
I don't think you should ever bring that anime up again. I think we should let that fade into history. Alright, well, that was our sink or swim on The World Ends With You. Like, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more sink or swims in the near future. We're going to be tackling all the different animes, video games, and movies that you could possibly think of. So, until then, see you around.